Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and we're back with something completely different. Today we're taking a look at from the Star Wars Mission Fleet line. This is the Bad Batch. Now, I know this set has probably been out for quite a while, but I was finally able to get it because during Amazon's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Thanksgiving weekend sale, the price on this set dropped to about I think it was like $3 and change. I mean, that was before tax and all that. But you may or may not be aware these have been showing up in Ross and Ollie's, and I would say that that's probably cheaper than what you would get at Ross or Ollie's. Ross or Ollie's, I don't think they go below $5 on something like this. So that is kind of cool to be able to have it, and I finally pulled the trigger because I had my eye on this set for a while. Now, as you can see, we have four members of the Bad Batch: Hunter, Ekko, Crosshair, and Recker. Now, Crosshair is in its Imperial uniform. That's because if you saw the first season of Bad Batch, Crosshair leaves the team and joins the Imperial uh, army so that his the outfit changes. I do not know if in the Mission Fleet line there is a Crosshair in its classic um, Bad Batch uniform. Maybe that might be coming, maybe not. Also, you notice we're missing Tech. Now, that's not because of the events of season two of the Bad Batch. That's because Tech is actually comes in a deluxe set with a at Walker. No, excuse me, the ATST Walker that's been kind of done up in Bad Batch colors. So yeah, if you want the complete team, you'd have to buy this set and that Walker. And unfortunately, I'm very hesitant to buy the vehicles from Mission Fleet because of space, but they are relatively cheap. And again, at Ross and Ollie's, they're much cheaper. So if you can actually find that set of uh, Tech and the ATST, um, you know, uh, you probably can get it for like $5, maybe it's seven. That goes for about 12 and change on Amazon, and that's a bit more than I'm willing to spend right now. So let's see how the holidays go. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Mission Fleet, yes, this is actually the precursor to the line that was used for Indiana Jones. These are 2.5 inch tall figures with limited articulation, but not as limited as you'd think. It's more than 5 points. And as I mentioned with the deluxe, with the vehicles, the single pack figures come with some sort of action accessory that sometimes can interact with the larger vehicles. And because of this size, you can do vehicles like the Mandalorian's Razor Crest for under $30 or at $30. I think that's one of the bigger vehicles. I know there's a Millennium Falcon out there. You know, as a comparison, to do the Razor Crest at the 3 3/4 inch scale, Hasbro felt that the only way they could do it is as a HasLab. So there's that. Now, what is also nice is you have the four figures. I know in the Black Series, Echo was Tech was a store exclusive, and you had Crosshairs in its normal colors first. But I think like Crosshair and Hunter or something like that were very hard to find. And then you got down, and then they've just started releasing them in the 3 3/4 inch vintage collection line. So there's that. Now, I also think the Bad Batch are going to come in the retro collection. So that will be, but that's a whole other set. That's for, those who want those old Kenner 5 point of articulation figures. So what we'll do now is we will pause and we'll take a closer look at each figure individually, starting with the team leader, Hunter. Okay, now you might remember we did look at another Mission Fleet figure some time ago, and I believe that was the Dark Trooper. That just came in on Amazon, and it was like about between three and a half and $6. And again, it had that little jetpack. I kind of wanted it just because of how cool they looked at the end of the season 2 of The Mandalorian. But these are really the standard figures right here. Now, as you can notice, uh, the head is on a ball joint, very articulated. You do actually have forward and back arm movement, but you also have lateral arm movement, no elbow joint, and the wrist can swivel. Now, most of the figures do come with a nice amount of sex accessories. Hunter here comes basically with what you would expect Hunter to come with. There's a removable backpack that we've seen in the show. There's some back detailing to his uniform. Um, I should also mention the legs just move forward and back. There is no lateral leg movement and no waist articulation. And Hunter comes with its special knife. It's like a little sonic blade. And what's cool is they did include the working sheath on the arm here. Now, unfortunately, I want to say that this was put on backwards. I'm not sure because I remember the opening to the sheath facing outward. This might be a mistake. I might be remembering wrong. Unfortunately, this is like, I believe, glued or molded in because I tried to twist it and I started seeing a huge stress mark. I think if it is, it might actually be intentionally wrong just because if you had this rotated down, the when you have the knife in its sheath, it would be blocking this hand. Now, also, Hunter, usually you would see him with a handgun at most, and that's actually what the figure comes with in like the Black Series and the Vintage Collection. And while the figure didn't intentionally include one, Ekko, at least next to Ekko in the packaging, there is this little hand blaster. And Ekko's not shown using it, and neither is Hunter. But if you do desire, you can give Hunter a little bit of a projectile weapon there. And it holds it quite nicely. But I would really leave this with Ekko since Hunter's gimmick is the whole, uh, knife thing. Very nice figure. Very accurate to how the character looks in the Bad Batch show, at least at the beginning in season 1. Um, really not that familiar with their appearances in the Clone Wars. Was not a fan of that show. Let's just say it was like every episode that I watched contradicted the movie, and it really started to drive me nuts. But it is cool. It is fun. Oh, and there are pegs at the bottom of the feet. I don't know if any of the vehicles have like little peg holes. So who knows? I don't see Mission Fleet ending anytime soon, even though the vast majority of the sets and figures are ending up at Ollie's and Ross. So we might get their new ship at some point. And again, because of the size, I truly believe that will be something that at most would be $30, but would be able to fit the figures comfortably. Who knows? It might even come with Omega. So that was Hunter. How about we pause now and take a look at Ekko? So here's Ekko, and Ekko is one of the figures that comes a little bit more in terms of the accessory department. Besides that handgun we just talked about, Ekko has a nice backpack here that's again removable. You can see the back of the uniform. The head is again very articulate and expressive, very nice. Um, but really, the big selling point here is this claw, which is removable and reveals Ekko's data spike that can be used to interact with various locks and computers and what have you. Really works like a RoboCop from the old movie. Unfortunately, there is nowhere to store the claw once it's removed on the body, and I believe the claw in the show actually like retracts into the spike or folds out of the spike, that type of thing. So there is that. Um, And of course, there is no holster here. As you can see, Ekko does have molded in the little clone trooper skirt that we saw some of their, I think the officers would have. So there, I like the little variety of the armor between the figures. Same amount of articulation as the other figures. One thing I do want to mention about these guys is that they really can't bring their arms down all the way to the side. I think it's because of the way the armor's molded. So when you go to point the weapon, it is a little bit, off center, but it is what it is. Very nice, kind of cool. Oh, and obviously none of the helmets are removable. I guess that goes without saying. Um, so now we'll pause and we'll take a look at Crosshair. Crosshair was one of the figures I was really looking forward to in the set. Um, I do have a thing for snipers, and it does include its sniper rifle. Unlike in the Vintage Collection and Black Series, this does not break down. Also, it's made of a very soft, rubbery plastic. So, what I recommend is instead of just popping the rifle out of the packaging, um, cut open the plastic tray where the barrel is. Just make like two slits and fold that pla- plastic back, and that way it'll pop out a little bit easier without the barrel getting bent. Um, Now, Crosshair's uniform here is a little bit different. This is actually like a hybrid of the clone trooper, but also what was starting to be the stormtrooper armor. Completely different color, as they, again, moving away from the Bad Batch, and I don't think the Stormtrooper color was really set yet. Also, going by the series, this is a period where clone troopers were being phased out, so it's possible they wanted to make sure this guy was designated that it as a clone. Same amount of articulation. Unfortunately, the targeting reticle does not flip down, and also because of how the rifle is designed, and the arms are designed, you really can't get any sniper poses or point the rifle forward. What you can do, and I think is kind of fun, is there is on the backpack here, again, removable. Get a look at the back here. You can see clearly that early stormtrooper look. Take it back in. You can store the rifle, and it just see how can get it in. Did it before. Um, Now, you see, unfortunately, there's no instructions that show you like which way this is supposed to go. So I'm going to say like that, and it seems like it fits in. But yeah, you can store it right there on the back. And what's nice is, with some of the larger um, mission fleet vehicles, there are even like posts and slots in the vehicle to store the backpacks. So you could, I mean, there is some thought to this line. I mean, these are fun figures, and if I was younger, I would really enjoy them. Um, but yep, that's about it for Crosshair. Let's round things off with the big guy himself, Recker. I left Crosshair in the shot just for a second that even though Recker is supposed to be the largest member physically of the Bad Batch. This figure uses the same general buck and is no taller than anybody else. Um, I think that's just because they really, at 2.5 inches, are limited as what they can do in terms of fooling around with the scale. I mean, if they went smaller, you might limit the articulation, and then if they went bigger, that could affect the prices that it fits into. So just wanted to show that. But there was Crosshair, and now we're taking a look at Recker. Recker really, I think, is one of the standouts from the Bad Batch. The definition of a gentle giant. You can see the detail there on the helmet. Again, ball jointed head, very expressive. Unfortunately, due to the molding of the armor here and the style of the helmet, you don't get that little side to side waggle that you did with the other guys. But all the other articulation is there. The lateral arm movement, uh, the wrist swivel. You do have a removable backpack. There is the back of the armor. Unfortunately, this is a little confusing. That, well, Record does come with what I believe to be its signature blaster, and they even have a tab molded in on the side there, as you can see, there is no real storage for the weapon. In fact, there isn't any storage for the weapon, which I find a little odd because if I remember correctly, um, on the show, Recker would always be able to store his weapon on the backpack and do that over the shoulder X-Men Bishop type of quick draw thing. But obviously, with the limits on the arm articulation, that wouldn't be possible here. So that's maybe why that weapon that storage was not included. Also, it's very possible that this blaster was actually taken from another figure that had the storage. Because usually when I see tabs like that, that's for the weapon to peg into the leg or something. So that's actually, which again, can't do here. So there is that. But what it does have is a sheath for Wrecker's knife, and the knife fits in very nicely. Typical now, it is different than Hunter's, and it can be held. Um, he always had that big, I guess you could say the K-bar style knife if you want to go like that. But just get it in the hand here. Unfortunately, when you're got big fingers and working with little things, it's a little tricky. So there's that. Uh, Really, again, nice looking figure. Really happy to have it. And again, I should mention for $3 in change, um, before shipping and tax, you have four of the five members of the Bad Batch. And I think that's kind of a deal now, especially when I want to say that Crosshairs on the Black Series, that's going for close to $100 now. And it just came out maybe like a year ago, year and a half ago. So yeah, distribution. So we'll pause and we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts on the team. Just as an aside, without spoiling season two of the Bad Batch, perhaps this set was a bit of a foreshadowing of what was going to happen in terms of, you know, who's left on the team and things of that nature. But then again, um, this set was created during a time where Disney was very much closed mouth and not sharing of information as it pertained to upcoming events, which was affecting, Hasbro's releases and stuff. I mean, let's not forget you had the day after the Razor Crest HasLab ended, the Razor Crest was destroyed in The Mandalorian. So you had that, and of course, the secrets of Grogu and how we missed a whole holiday season of merchandise because Disney did not want it leaking out. But it also says a lot about the state of the factories that that has to be done. But that was just an aside. I really think this is a great set. I think a lot of you will find a lot of enjoyment for it. These are fun little fiddle toys. They don't take up a lot of space, and because of the price point, there's a lot more open and available um, to you in the Mission Fleet line in terms of vehicles, characters, and what have you. Um, Definitely, if you're interested in this line, go to Ross, go to Ollie's. I mean, they have Ollie's. I know I see it in like a ton of toy hunting videos. They have Razor Crest. They have Luke Skywalker with his X-wing fighter and Grogu from the end of season two of The Mandalorian. Um, they have the Ashoka ship. They have a couple. They have a few of the basic figures with the little backpacks and stationary things. I mean, a lot of times unfortunately people really aren't searching specifically for Mission Fleet, so I can't tell you everything they have, but it's definitely worth a look. And also, if you're like me and don't unfortunately live in an area where you don't have these stores, keep an eye on Amazon. Now, unfortunately, as I mentioned, this was a Black Friday Cyber Monday deal. and it was one of these time deals. So it being Tuesday, the sale is over. It also would have been over if they reached their limit of how many of these sets they were selling. Maybe as we get more into the holiday shopping season, a deal might pop up again. But I mean, at this point, see, I always have a hard time after these big sales recommending stuff to people at full price. And uh, or I should say their normal price, because my attitude is if they can be sold at a discounted price, sell it like that all along. And I know there's a couple stores that are like that, which explains why they never do sales. Um, but for $3 and change, this was a steal, and I would say like $5. Um, that could be good. That's probably what I think at Ross or Ollie's, which I know have this set. Uh, you would probably find. And if I mean if you can go to Ollie's and get this and uh tech with the ATST, you've got the whole set there, plus you have a vehicle to play with, and I'm pretty sure you'll be walking out without spending more than $20. And that's a good deal. So, yep, just wanted to show you more of the Mission Fleet line. Um, maybe I'll pick up one of the Indiana Jones sets. Unfortunately, right now it looks like those are going to be strictly Amazon only because Target cleared out and removed all their Indiana Jones merchandise once the movie tanked. So there's that. But again, the fun line. I think it's a great step up from what I would say the precursor would have been the Superhero Squad. Remember those Marvel and Star Wars figures that were fixed figurines in the squat pose. This is much better than that as you have a little more play with the figures. But that's about it for the review. If you like this review, like, comment, and subscribe. Well, I will always appreciate the views, the likes, comments, and subscriptions. Help to communicate to YouTube through their algorithms that my channel should be exalted and held upon high. You want to make the ultimate sign of support, I do have a Patreon. It is www.patreon.com/chuckdog1999. All I ask for is $1 a month, $12 a year. No thrills, no tiers, no special rewards. All you're doing is helping me help you to help me help you bring figures like this to you, as well as keeping up the infrastructure of the channel. But as I always say, and especially now at this time of year, I know times are tough. I know it's the holiday season. Focus more on your family and don't worry about an old guy like me and the Patreon. But since it is the season of giving, if you do find yourself with a couple extra bucks here and there, I will be more than happy to accept. But remember what I always say, your views are more than thanks enough. Patreon is just a cherry on top of an already generous Sunday. So that's about it for the review. Once again, for the Bad Batch, Hunter, Ekko, Crosshair, and Recker, we will see you next time.